Today we look at the possibility that Canucks defenseman Travis Hamonic may want to trade out of Vancouver. We also have some more Evander Kane drama. There's a new investigation being launched that we just learned about here today. We also have a big free agent signing, except it's not a player, it's in the hockey reporter world. Plus, we also want to discuss about Julien Brisebois getting an extension in Tampa, and will some of his colleagues across the NHL like Marc Bergevin be doing the same, or will the Habs go in a different direction? We'll discuss all the latest news coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news and rumors to discuss here today, and I want to kick things off with the big news on the free agent signing. As I mentioned, of course, but I'm not talking about an NHL player. Pretty big news, at least in my opinion, within the hockey reporting world. We saw a free agent hockey insider, Johnston, sign with TSN and start his new career there today. Of course, he formerly of Sportsnet, did the headline segment with Elliotte Friedman every Saturday night on Hockey Night in Canada. Of course, he recently announced a few weeks ago that he was leaving Sportsnet and he was going to be doing some writing for the Toronto Star. Then he launched his own podcast through the Steve Dangle Podcast Network, which just launched in the last week, and it skyrocketed to number one on the podcast list of hockey and general, I believe, very quickly. So very, very popular start for that. And then today we get the big announcement that TSN's made a big free agent signing, and he did his first segment of TSN Insider Trading, joining Pierre LeBrun and Darren Dreger on that segment, giving us some new information here today. So certainly been, a lot of new going on in the world of CJ Chris Johnston, and we certainly look forward to seeing what he can bring to TSN. One of the things he first talked about was the Auston Matthews injury and the fact that Matthews may not be ready to start game one of the NHL season. Of course, he did participate in practice. It looked pretty decent out there, but there's still no word on when he's going to possibly do a preseason game. There's no plans as of right now. And word is, as another week or so goes by, and there's no, preseason action, there's no plans, then that might mean that it's not quite ready. So I don't think there's anything to worry or panic about in Toronto at all. If Matthews does miss time, I would not expect it to be a whole lot. But unfortunately, it is a possibility at this point that we can't say it's a guarantee that he's going to play in opening night, which I know kind of is disappointing probably for Leaf fans. Obviously, they want to have him in there. They always have a better chance to win when he plays, but that's just the way it is, and we'll see where things go on that front. We also got word as well that Islanders prospect defenseman Bode Wilde has been loaned to a Tier 2 team in the SHL. Of course, Bode Wilde did publicly confirm that he was an unvaccinated player, and because of that, the Islanders did not welcome him to training camp. They still see him as being a part of the team's future. He is a pretty decent-looking prospect D. I think there's a lot of upside there, but they don't want to take the chance of having him at camp if he's not willing to be vaccinated, and it seemed like that was something he was totally not willing to do. So going over to play in Sweden where it's not required is something that he's going to be doing for the coming year, and we'll see in future here if that's still going to remain a requirement or where things go with COVID. It's still hard to predict that far out. And speaking of players that are not vaccinated, we did get confirmation today on who the prominent name was with the New Jersey Devils who is yet to be vaccinated and could possibly miss significant time this year because of that. And as I had speculated before, there was rumors that it was Mackenzie Blackwood, and that indeed was confirmed today by himself facing reporters. However, it doesn't sound completely that he's 100% not going to be getting it. It sounds like that he's just still wanting to check some things out. He's just not rushing to get it. So he made a lot of comments, which, to me, I think is very respectable. You have to respect his decision here. He cited some health concerns, which is why he hadn't done it so far. He seemed like he wasn't really completely opposed to it. He's just taking his time to learn a few more things, check back into some other things, like I said, health-wise, and kind of make a decision. He also made comments saying, he cared deeply for his team, didn't want to put them in a position to, be set back or to lose or anything of that nature. So I don't know if it's going to be a case he'll get it or not. And it's really, like I said, that's entirely his choice. But the Devils do have, I believe it was 8 games in Canada that he would not be eligible to play in. And obviously some of those games will be bigger than others. A lot of them are later into the season as well. And I know the Devils are hoping to be playing into some more meaningful games later in the year. So not being able to have their goalie for those games could be a big blow. I mean, they do thankfully have some other goaltenders there, a little bit more depth in the position this year, so it's not, a complete, situation that's going to be a major, major impact, but it could be. So we'll see where things go on that front, but it sounds like he's at least considering it. So we'll have to see later on, but there's at least plenty of time before it would really have much of an impact on the team or anything of that nature. So we'll see where that goes. When it comes to a couple of GMs around the NHL, we did get word that Julien Brisebois, which is like a big no-brainer, Pierre LeBrun talked about this on Insider Trading, that he's been extended by owner Jeff Vinik in Tampa. No big surprise. They've had nothing but success. Back-to-back Stanley Cups. He was entering the final year of his deal. The owner had made comments, I believe, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, indicating that the GM would be looked after, which, really, why would either of them want to part ways when everything has gone so extremely well down there, right? So clearly, we knew this was going to happen. I'm not sure exactly the full terms of the contract extension, but it is a multi-year contract extension to keep him as the GM in Tampa. But I know that there was certainly a lot of people in, when it comes to Habs fans or people in Montreal, but I might have been watching that situation because there's a lot of uncertainty around GM Marc Bergevin, and Pierre LeBrun talked about this as well. The future of him as GM in Montreal is uncertain, and it's not because Montreal would want to get rid of him or that he'd be getting fired. Clearly, they had a phenomenal year last year when it came to their playoff run. I think their regular season was not fantastic, but they went on quite a run there. And clearly, after making it a finals appearance and everything that happened, they had a pretty decent offseason as well. Obviously the whole offer sheet situation with Kotkaniemi threw things for a loop, but I think they responded well. Dufour has looked good so far early in camp and preseason play. So at least for right now, I think they're a better team than they were last regular season. I mean, last regular season wasn't phenomenal. It was the playoffs, right? So we'll have to see. It's still going to be a challenge, though, to get into playoffs, in my opinion, because they're going into a much tougher division than they were in last year. Doesn't mean they won't get in, but it's certainly not going to be an easy task, is all I'm saying. They're going to need a lot of things to go right and go well, and they have some new parts there that are just going to have to work out for them in order for that to get that level of success. But according to Pierre LeBrun, the breakdown here on Marc Bergevin, they've had multiple conversations between he and Jeff Molson about his future. They had discussions as far back as last spring. Apparently they talked again in July. Apparently Jeff Molson did make an offer to Bergevin, but obviously he didn't accept it and sign it. So we don't really know exactly what that means. There was some word that before that Bergevin was considering not continuing on in the role just because he's been there for a long time, and it is a very stressful job. It's very taxing. It's a lot of work, and does he want to continue with that? It's hard to say. It wasn't a situation that he didn't want to work for the Canadiens anymore. They didn't want him or anything like that. It's just, did he want a change? And we don't know the answer to that, and that very well could be part of it. Maybe he doesn't know yet either. So there is some question marks around that. Now, he's not the only GM going into this year, as the final year of his contract kicking in with some uncertainty. You've got Bob Murray in Anaheim. He's been there for like 14 years. You got Don Sweeney in Boston on year 7. You've got Rob Blake on year 4, I believe it is, and 4 or 5 for Blake, and then Don Waddell, I believe he's got 4 years in as well in Carolina. All uncertain because they're entering the final year of their contracts. Personally, I think Bob Murray's probably the main one that has some uncertainty. I don't know. I mean, he's been there a long time, but I could see maybe the Ducks going in a new direction. I'd be surprised if Waddell or Blake were not renewed, unless they choose not to be. Like I said, if they want to do something different, that would be the only reason. I would imagine Don Sweeney will be re-upped in Boston. And I said, then you get Murray and Bergevin with some uncertainty. I know like I said, Brisebois was going to be a prime candidate to go back to his home province if that job was available. But of course, he's staying in Tampa now. And as I mentioned before, and I'm not saying there's any kind of certainty at all, but we know that Patrick Wall wants to get back into the NHL. He's made it known. There was comments that he had joined getting a new agent, helping him find either coaching or managerial opportunities within the NHL. And that, obviously, that would be something I think he'd be very interested in. We know he's recently made amends. He's certainly open to working for the Canadiens again, at least I think he is. So we'll see. That's certainly a name to keep an eye on in the news cycle should this drag on further and have more uncertainty about Bergevin returning. But I would be shocked as well if they come to an agreement and he ends up signing an extension for a few more years. So we'll see where that goes as well. Now, before we talk about the rest of the video and the rest of the news here today, we do need to pause for a moment and acknowledge our channel sponsor, Manscaped. Top Shelf Hockey is proud to be sponsored by Manscaped. Of course, with Manscaped, we have a special offer here for all Top Shelf Hockey viewers where you can get 20% off and free shipping on all orders at manscaped.com. Now, of course, Manscaped just launched a brand new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, which is a fantastic product. They've taken the level up here, even again with the skin-safe replaceable blades. It's waterproof, it's wireless charging, has a travel lock on it, as well as a nice light so you don't miss what you're doing. So certainly a terrific product. Now, many people associate Manscaped with their trimmers, which is certainly kind of their top product, but they do have a lot of other great options as well, including what they call the Weed Whacker, which is another trimmer for your ears and nose. And they have a variety of deodorants and sprays as well, which also keep you fresh and are terrific as well. So certainly Manscaped has a lot to offer, and we certainly highly recommend all of their products. So check out manscaped.com and use promo code TSH for 20% off and free shipping. So thanks very much for watching our promotional content. I do greatly appreciate it. Big shout out as well to our channel members. I do greatly appreciate all your support. Everybody who's bought the merchandise lately. Lots of these hoodies have sold. Greatly appreciate all your support, and thank you very much again. Means a lot. Now, moving into the rest of the news cycle here. Quick update, and I don't know if there's much to it because it's hard to verify some things, but according to somebody on Twitter, there is rumors that Brady Tkachuk has come to Ottawa from Michigan. Now, like I said, that's just a rumor, and that very well could be debunked very quickly. I just noticed that before I'm starting to record, so there is some who think that a deal is getting close between him and the Senators. Can't say with any certainty that's the case because of the source of the information, but again, maybe we'll see here in the coming days if something is announced. But at this point, you have to think that they're getting close, but it really boils down to the Senators at the end of the day opening up the signing bonuses or the trade protection. It's just those fine details that he wants and feels he deserves that I think is holding things up. So will they give it to him? They really should, because they need to sign him to satisfy the fan base and get some stability, slap the C on his jersey, and move forward with this group. I mean, they just need to get it done. It'd be catastrophic failure if they don't. So we'll see where that goes. I know NHL insider analyst Mike Johnston talked about this on Ottawa radio today as well, saying he expects something to be sorted out here in the coming days within the next week before the opening night of the regular season. So hopefully for he and Sens fans and Tkachuk in Ottawa that he's right. So we'll move on here to talk now about Evander Kane. Yes, there's more Kane drama. When you think there can't be more, there's more. And actually this information was, even though it only came to light today, apparently it's something that was possibly something they've been looking at for a little bit here. But when it comes to Evander Kane, he's now under investigation for violating league COVID protocols and possibly endangering his health and safety of his teammates. Now, if you look at the news release that we talked about, I think it was a week ago or whatever it was, when the NHL announced that they could not find any proof that he bet on hockey games, and they cleared him of that. They mentioned that there was other things that he was being investigated for, but the only thing that article referenced in that statement from the NHL was talking about was the other legal stuff that came up between he and his wife, where he's being accused of domestic violence, sexual assault, and all those other things or whatever. I can't remember the exact charges, but all that stuff that had nothing to do with this. And now, suddenly, if you review that article again, it's been edited to suggest that he's also being investigated for violating league COVID protocols, which had to have been last season, right? Because, I mean, at this point, he was already confirmed to not go to training camp this year because of all the other allegations. So he wouldn't have been around his team so far this year. So this would have happened several months ago. Why is it only being investigated now? I mean, if something happened, why did the team or whoever was aware of it not say something sooner? I don't know. It just seems like things are compounding, and it almost seems like they're trying to find more reasons to pile up together here to maybe see if they can terminate the contract or something, or suspend him. I don't really know. It just seems really weird timing. But I don't really know exactly what it was he violated. We seen last year that the Capitals were fined like $100,000, I think it was, for a bunch of their players violating league protocols, when a bunch of them, I believe they were in a room together, socializing, doing other things, when it was all specified that they had to be separated in their own rooms and all that. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens next, but he's certainly not in training camp. He's basically suspended until further notice while the league sorts out what to do for the other pending legal allegations that are up against him. And now this. So I don't know. To me, I think there's a pretty good chance that his career might be over, but I really don't know what their options are when it comes to either suspending him or terminating the contract or anything of that nature. But I think the NHL would really like to get that sorted out before the regular season actually starts. So hopefully we get more information on that soon as well. Now, as I mentioned, when it comes to the Canucks and Travis Hamonic, there is word now that he may want to be traded. We know that Hamonic signed a 2-year contract to go back and play with the Canucks. Of course, last year he's a decent fit there, played a fair bit with Quinn Hughes, was a good partner for him. And now, after he signs his contract, is when the league protocols were agreed to. And now it seems like he doesn't want to go. And the rumor has it here, according to Vancouver Hockey Now, word is that he is not vaccinated and that he would rather go play in a U.S. market because obviously the rules in those jurisdictions are a little bit different. He wouldn't have to travel through Canada a whole lot, so he could be able to play a lot more. Obviously, whenever his team, if he did get traded to a U.S.-based team, came to Canada, he wouldn't be able to play, but that's a smaller number of games as compared to playing for a Canadian team. Like, it just pretty much can't be. Like, a Canadian team, because of the rules across Canada and what the NHL has in place, to have an unvaccinated player, it's almost impossible, just because of the amount of time that they're going to miss between not being able to play in Canadian cities, the quarantines they have to go through from coming back from the U.S. It's really complicated. So it's like they have to be basically a fully vaccinated team to function normally and not have a lot of impact. So I can understand why, it might make sense for him. But for a guy who's made it well known for quite some time now in his career, since he's left the Islanders, that he's wanted to play in Western Canada to be close to home, I mean, I don't know. It just seems odd, but I guess if he really doesn't want to be vaccinated, but yet he still wants to play hockey, it would be easier for him. It just really hurt the Canucks here that all of a sudden now he doesn't want to fulfill this contract, basically. I don't know if they can get out of the contract if they can't find a trade, but I would assume that for him, he'd probably prefer to play for a team that's somewhat central, so he's somewhat, just based on where the border is and the teams that would be closer to like the prairie provinces, that would be my guess, but I really don't know. I mean, I know he's got a young family. I know they're, and obviously family's big for him, and I fully, respect his decisions to whether he doesn't want to be vaccinated or not. It just really has put the Canucks in a tough spot here, and I'm not sure how easy this is going to be to get a trade for him this late in the year with teams kind of having their rosters somewhat settled. There's not a lot of money out there for a lot of teams, so we'll see where this goes, but rumor has it that that's what it's looking for, and that's what's holding things up. He has not reported to camp. He may not be reporting to camp. If they can't find a trade, he has until Friday to opt out and just not play this year. But then, of course, that complicates things too. So we'll see what happens, and we'll let me know what you think the Canucks should do and how do they replace them too, because it depends on what they can find for a trade. They could just offload the money and make things a little easier to get Pettersson and Hughes signed, but then that leaves them thinner on the blue line too. So it's not a great situation no matter how you shake it here. So let me know your thoughts on everything discussed today down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.